All right, I'm going to talk about something that's just kind of an emotional subject that I don't really like talking about. And I know this channel is supposed to be like a traveling channel, but I also want to sprinkle in some of my own personal stuff. And one of the things that I've always dealt with is depression, and I still deal with it. You know, it's one of those things that just doesn't go away. It's an ongoing battle, but you can put yourself for success. So I'm just going to say how I went from rock bottom to good. All right, and this is for anybody else who really wants to make a change, or who's really depressed, or who just doesn't see the brighter side. I'm gonna just give my little story on how I went from being suicidal, which I don't like saying it, I feel, I don't like talking about it, but I think it's important to talk about. So what I did was completely flip my life around 100%. I was working at Mission Taco Joint in Soulard, making good money, but I was drinking all the time. I would always have in my bag, I'd have like a fifth of Jack Daniels pretty much in my bag at all times. I was selling cocaine, doing a lot of cocaine too. I wouldn't make it through the shift without going in my bag in the little break room and drinking some Jack. I wouldn't. And then I knew it was a problem. I was extremely suicidal. Which, like I said, I don't like talking about. I mean, it's always been in my mind, ever since I was probably like 6 or 7, and I used to, one of my earliest memories, my family can attest to this, was I'd always jump up in the old Wilshire house. I'd always jump up, I was probably 9 years old, maybe, at most. I'd always jump up and sit right next to the microwave. I remember it like it was like a picture, and I'd always just it was right by the knives, and I'd grab a knife and just put it to my wrist. I was probably like 9 years old, super young. I had to go to therapy for a little while over it. I was a child dealing with stuff like this, and I'm 28 now. I mean, I've been dealing with this all my life, really. But and that was just being a kid, a kid that age just doesn't make sense. It's just like something in you. But that was just, sorry, that got off track. That was just a little ramble. But so as an adult, how I dealt with it and how I'm dealing with it now, because now I'm good. Like I know it could always come back, and that's why you have to stay on it. You have to stay ready, like with your mind. You have to do certain things, and you have to avoid certain things. So I was at Mission Taco Joint. I put in my 2 weeks because I was going to move, like it seemed, and you have to be selfish. You have to, if you're dealing with something like this, you honestly have to do whatever it takes, because it's either you're going to end your life or you're going to make a big change. So like, and I didn't even tell anybody this, but I decided to move down to Destin, Florida. It was about 3.5 years ago. It was my last day at Mission Taco Joint, and how I know that God was like blessing me or showing me that I was on the right path. It was my last day at Mission Taco Joint, and I left there on my last day, and I needed something. I wanted a beer just to settle. I was drinking all the time, which I don't drink anymore. But so I left Mission Taco Joint and stopped by Broadway Oyster Bar. This was at my last shift at Mission Taco Joint. Very uncertain if I should move or not. Should I move on to the next chapter? So I ended up stopping at Broadway Oyster Bar to grab a beer, just by myself after work, which is what I do, which is what I did all the time. So I stopped by Broadway Oyster Bar, my last day on this new, about to start this new chapter, which I didn't even know about, the whole traveling server bartender thing. And so I stopped by Broadway Oyster Bar, and I'm grabbing a drink, talking to the bartender, and these people look familiar. So I'm like, hey man, is that the guy from Trailer Park Boys? Then the bartender's like, yeah man, look around you. They're all the Trailer Park Boys. And I look to my left, to my right, all of them are there. You got Bubbles, Ricky, Julian, all of them are there. And what a surprise. Here I was kind of down, like I don't know what to do, very depressed. I was literally like, it was one of those things where they say you're drowning and you're just like trying to make headway, like I didn't know what I was doing. I just figured I'd move and try to make drastic changes, which worked. And then it was like God giving me a sign. My last day, I go into Broadway Oyster Bar. I end up drinking with the entire cast. We hang out for like 3 hours, like what a weird coincidence. This is why God is good. And this is why I believe 100%, because so many things like this have happened in my life that I can't explain without it being God or a higher power, however you want to look at it. Other people will say this or that about religion, but I can't fight it. Like I see too many things with my eyes that direct me and show me that I'm on the right path, that I have no choice but to believe. And it keeps being reaffirmed with me. I 100% believe because of what I've seen, not because anything else. So I end up drinking it with the Trailer Park Boys, and that's like a sign that I'm on the right path. But anyway, I was still going to go down there, and I was still very suicidal. And I remember giving all I had. I gave my Xbox 360 and my TV to my daughter's mom and her new husband, and I pretty much just told them that I didn't need it anymore, that I had an extra one or something, because that's all I had to give. Which right now I'm talking to you guys or this fucking GoPro, so like, you know, I don't get emotional about it, but I almost break down and cry all the time when I think about that's like all I had to give, you know, was this fucking Xbox and a TV, and nobody knew out, you know, that they were just like, sure, if you have an extra one, we'll take it. But I was giving it because that's all I had. Literally, you know, no savings, no thing. I just gave it to them. It was my only possession. And then I packed my bag, moved on to Destin, Florida. It ended up working out terribly, to be honest. You know, I ended up getting hurt. I moved there in September, which is, if you know Destin, Florida, their busy season is spring and summertime. So I moved there at September at the end of their season, where they're getting rid of all their workers. This is my first time doing the traveling serving bartender. I didn't do much research. I just had to get away. You know, I didn't think. I ended up moving to a very shitty situation, which I only stayed in for 2 days. Then I moved to a better spot in Destin, which worked out decent while I was there. But I didn't even look up. I just found somewhere where I could stay and immediately went there. Didn't talk to the person, nothing. I found a spot and went down there. But that set me on the right path. You see, it was a bad move, you know what I'm saying? Like, in hindsight, like, but it was the start of something great. It was the start of the journey. So I got to Destin, and it was September. I worked there for September, October, and then it was just super slow. So I didn't move to not make money. You know, since I was down there, I'm like, let's make some money. And then I went to Vail, Colorado. You know, I lived in Denver for like 3 years prior. So from Destin, which was a big change, you know, and I went down there pretty much thinking like, let's move somewhere and get away from everything and see if it works, you know, and it did, you know, like, and this is why I can't go back home, because I know I always fall back in the same mood, the same mindset and all these weird things, you know, so I can't, or I won't. But, so from Destin, which was actually, it was a failure turned into a success, you know, because from there I realized I had to go somewhere else since the season was over. So my lease, you know, I just did month-to-month rent, you know, so I paid up until the end of October. So it was November 1st, and I had to go somewhere, either South Florida for a busy season as a server bartender, or I said, F it, and I could go to a ski resort, which I've never been. So I ended up going to Vail, Colorado. It worked out perfectly. And from Vail, I had a great time, you know, and now I'm on this whole new road, this whole new thing, you know, like this whole like traveling server bartender thing. You know, it really just started because I had to get away. I had to change my life. I had to do a drastic change, which is what you have to do. You can't stay in the same situation. If I would have stayed in the same situation, I would have still been back there drinking, doing white, feeling like shit, and probably ended up, you know, and there was many times where I was close to it, you know, where I remember just super close, you know, and especially doing drugs and drinking. The next 2 days, you're going to feel terrible, you know, like you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're depressed, you can't be doing that. But anyway, so now I'm in Vail, Colorado, and I'm working there. And then the people there do summers in Martha's Vineyard. So like I worked in Vail, Colorado, and then I talked to a bunch of people who do Martha's Vineyard for summer. So then I was like, okay, well, this is cool. Let's start doing winter seasons and then summer seasons, you know? So then I found out about Martha's Vineyard. I worked out there. Then, you know, and I'd go back home for like 6-7 months at a time. Then I'd go elsewhere. You know, I went to South Beach. And now I'm in Destin for a good thing, you know, for actual summertime. And then, and now I have it planned out. You know, it started from me just having to move to get away. But now I got it all figured out. You know, maybe I'll do summers in Martha's Vineyard or Destin, winters in Scottsdale, Hawaii, or back in Colorado or something. You know, I figured it out. But really, it all started with me making that first step just to, you know, say, I can't keep going this way, because I knew something bad would happen. And then for me making that first step, God said, yes, you're on the right path with the whole Trailer Park Boys thing. And then even though Destin looked like it was a mistake, it ended up being great, because then I went to Vail, which I met the people from Martha's Vineyard, which really set this whole thing up. So what I'm saying is you have to make a huge change. You can't just do the same thing and expect the same results. Like, I don't know where I would be. I don't know, you know, but now I'm on such a good path and such a good trajectory because I changed everything. I really did. I really did. And you have to do that. And another thing is, like I said, with the whole depression thing, you got to put the booze down. It's the worst. And if you're like, I have a buddy who, RIP, I love him to death. he committed suicide, and he was one of the most productive, happy, had huge dreams guys I know. And he did it. And he did it, but I heard the day previous he was partying with everybody, doing white, drinking. And he committed suicide, because that's when you do it. You don't do, well, some people might do it on a sober mind, but you do these things on those days where after you had a long binge, or you do it then, you know? So you have to avoid that stuff. And for me, I wouldn't have avoided it if I didn't move away. Facts. I wouldn't have avoided it if I didn't move away. So if you're depressed or have serious issues, you can't just take this stuff granted. You have to be selfish. You have to move away. You have to do whatever you can to get out of that situation. You have to change everything. You have to start going to the gym. Super important. You have to stop doing drugs. I'm not talking about weed though. Sorry guys. For me, weed keeps my sanity. People can say whatever they want about it. We could have arguments all day. I don't try to argue, but for me, weed is... Mary Jane's been with me every step of the way since I was like... Say what you will about it. I've tried quitting this and that. It's just not worth it for me. It's not worth the depression, and I'm not doing depression pills or nothing. But do some yoga, do some meditation, go to the gym, have a healthy diet, and just change whatever it is. For me, I had to move. For you, you might have to move too, because you're going to keep falling into the same traps you've been falling in. And that's just a quick story. You know, I don't know what I just covered right there. I just wanted to tell my story about how I went from being suicidal and literally giving up my last possessions because I was probably going to kill myself in Destin, Florida when this shit went down. Which I don't like saying that, but that was my mentality. That's why I gave it away, because I was so down. And maybe it's because of the drugs and alcohol that, you know, I was like that. But, you know, I gave it away. And now I'm on this path now with my YouTube channel with Serving and Swerving, which I'm on this path now, which I see such a bright future. And I'm so healthy now, which I don't drink at all anymore. You know, and I'm not, you know, I didn't swear it off, but I just know that I could slip back into that same mentality. It's right there, because the depression will pop up still every now and again. It will. You know, I always say, hi, I believe in God because I've seen so many signs that I know he's got my back, and I'm fine with that, you know. So the depression's not going to leave. I just want to get that out there. It's not going to go anywhere. It's still going to be there. You know, you just have to know how to fight it. You got to know how to deal with it. And the first step is you got to put the alcohol down. You got to put the cocaine down. Any kind of stimulant, you got to put that down. And you have to get out of your element. So if you're dealing with depression, just get the hell out of there. Be selfish. And then you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what changes are going to happen. And you don't know where it's going to take you, honestly. But you have to trust that you're making the right steps. And it starts with small steps, and then it'll just turn into a stride. So that's how I beat my depression, you know. And well, I don't even want to say beat it. That's how I dealt with it. You know, I got out of that bad circumstance, and now I see my plan. My plan is to keep doing this Serving and Swerving, this YouTube, which, yeah, and that just started too when I was in Martha's Vineyard. I was like, you know what, let's start filming the areas that I go to. And my goal is to be like an Anthony Bourdain mixed with Joe Rogan, mixed with like T.D. Jakes, mixed with like Gary Vee. You know, I want to just be like a travel channel mixed with motivational stuff, helpful stuff, health things. Like, where do the locals go in Destin? Where do the locals go in Hawaii? Just different stuff. Film the areas, do the things. And, you know, and I didn't plan on this either, but now I have such a strong joy for life, and I have a path, a purpose, and I'm driven now. And it all started from me moving out of that situation completely on my own. I did Craigslist rooms for rent /shared. So if you are depressed and you need to change something, fucking change it. You have to change it. Otherwise, you're being an idiot. And even if you have these things that are tying you down, they're not going to be tying you down if you're dead. They're not. You have to change it. You have to move. Do Craigslist rooms /shared. And you could look up anywhere in the world and you could find a spot to rent, you know, just for like $500-600 a month. Just give somebody some money and get out of your element and change it up. You have to do a 180, and you don't know where it'll take you. You really don't. For me now, I'm so, like, everything's just working out, and that's because I trusted the process, I trusted the signs, and I stuck with it. I made big changes, and you have to make big changes too. If you're depressed, you have to make big changes. You can't keep doing the same thing. So that's a little bit of my story. I don't know if that helped, but I figured I'd share it and just kind of say how I, you know, battled my depression. You know, now it's all good. You just have to do the changes, trust the steps, and stay on the path. All right, guys. Subscribe. You know, like, I know it was just like a dark subject, but subscribe if you want to. Follow me around as I travel to different spots all over the country and all over the world, serving or bartending at their peak times, making good money, filming the area. I still am not the greatest at editing. I'm figuring it all out. In a year, hopefully I'll be good, you know, but if not, this is still good for me to do. So if you're battling depression, make serious changes and trust the journey, trust the process. You don't know where you're going to be 2 or 3 years from now. You really don't. You have a lot to live for, even if you don't know it or you don't see it. All right, guys, love. Be good to your people, be good to your neighbors. We're all dealing with shit, even if you can't see it. All right, see ya.